He stood in my doorway like he owned the floor. Crisp shirt, lazy grin, his mother's authority worn like a badge. "Make the numbers look friendlier," Lucas said, tapping my monitor. "And bring me the weekly summary by 5. In person." "I already sent it," I said. "And the numbers are honest." He leaned closer, voice low. "I like them friendlier. I am 52. I have worked under 4 CEOs, 2 recessions, and 1 messy merger. I don't flirt with data. I feed it light and let it tell the truth." So when Lucas began giving me little errands, print this, fetch that, sit in while he brainstormed, I stayed polite and kept the door half closed. That morning, he pushed the door the rest of the way. "Mom says we're moving faster," he said. "You'll update the forecast to something investors enjoy." "Investors enjoy reality," I said. He smirked. "They enjoy a story." We were 3 weeks from a board review. I had built the forecast line by line: churn, price sensitivity, supplier delays, cash on hand. The picture was tight but survivable, if we told the truth and cut the shiny waste. Lucas preferred shine. He liked to schedule innovation workshops at a boutique hotel, then post selfies in the lobby like he'd wrestled a dragon. At lunchtime, an email arrived with his mother's name, clean and sharp. Subject: alignment. The body was short. "Please ensure Lucas receives your full cooperation on investor messaging. He has my confidence. Confidence is lovely. Profit is better." I replied with my forecast, my risk notes, and a line that said, "Happy to discuss." 3 minutes later, HR pinged me for a quick chat. They asked if everything felt comfortable. I said yes, except for the pressure to decorate numbers. The HR manager blinked like a nurse tasting lemon. "We encourage positive framing," she said, "not misrepresentation." "Then we agree," I said. By late afternoon, Lucas called me to the small glass room near the kitchen, the one where you can smell coffee and hear every footstep. He had a printout I didn't send, a version of the forecast with my name on it, colors softened, bad news swaddled in footnotes. "Did you make this?" I asked. "It's your file," he said. I adjusted tone. "You edited assumptions," I said. "That changes reality." He folded his arms. "Mom says you'll present this." I felt the room tilt, not from fear, but from recognition. This was not a misunderstanding. It was a test. If I showed the soft version once, I would be the woman who could be nudged, the one who played ball. The office would learn it in an afternoon. Friends would still smile, but their eyes would count me differently. "I won't present false numbers," I said. His face sharpened. "Then apologize," he said, like the word had a taste. "You're making me look bad." "I'm protecting the company," he laughed. "The company is us." When I didn't move, he opened the door and raised his voice, calling across the hall. "Mom, can you join us?" She arrived with her tidy calm, the kind that freezes a room. "What's happened?" "Tone issues," Lucas said. "She refuses to cooperate and she's been rude about it." "I wasn't rude," I said. "I've documented the forecast. I won't change assumptions to please anyone's feelings." Her smile never moved. "We expect teamwork," she said. "Lucas is responsible for investor confidence. If you've undermined him, you'll apologize and align." There it was, the word again, apologize, as if the problem were attitude, not arithmetic. "I won't present fiction," I said. "And I won't apologize for telling the truth," she nodded, slow, as if ticking a box. "Then consider this your last day," she said. "Turn in your card. HR will send papers. Silence isn't empty. It has weight." It pressed on the glass, on my rib cage, on the coffee smell. I thought of the crew in finance who trusted my files. I thought of my husband, half retired, who had finally started sleeping through the night. I thought of my mother teaching me to balance a checkbook and say no with my chin level. I reached for my badge. "I'll pack my desk," I said, steady. Lucas smiled at the carpet. His mother watched my face, trying to read regret. I let her see nothing. At my desk, I copied one folder onto the personal drive I keep for my CV. Public documents only. Policies, calendar invites, my own emails, meeting notes that were mine to keep. Nothing confidential, nothing they could call theft. Just the trail of what happened, written on ordinary days, in ordinary words. My closest teammate, Ruth, stood by my chair. "You okay?" "I will be," I said. "Take care of the Q3 ledger. Page 4 has a rounding trap," she nodded, eyes hot. "This place forgets who saves it." "People remember," I said, "even when they pretend not to." I carried a small box past the glass room. Lucas did a little shrug at me. His mother looked at her phone. At the lift, I felt my heart banging not with fear, but with a clean, bright anger. There are moments in a life when dignity is the only asset you have left. Spend it wisely and it returns with interest. Outside, the wind was cool. I sat on a low wall and called my husband. "It's done," I said. "They fired me." He was quiet, then said the thing I needed. "Good," he said. "Now we get you somewhere that deserves you." I smiled at the pavement and let the sun find my face. "For us." Then my phone buzzed. A message from a client I'd helped during a supply scare last winter. "Are you free to talk?" "Urgent." I stared at the words. Urgent. I pressed call and listened to the ring, heat returning to my hands, because something in my chest already knew. This wasn't the end. It was the opening move of something much bigger. The call connected on the second ring. I heard warehouse clatter and strain in Martin's voice. He runs a family distribution firm that keeps supermarkets honest by delivering on time. Last winter, I helped him map priorities when ports stalled. "Are you available?" he said. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent. "I'm available," I said. "But I'm not bringing anything from my old desk." "Clean is clean. Understood," he said. "We need your brain, not their files." 2 shipments were waiting on a new financing line. The line was wobbling because a prospective investor had raised questions about forecasts his team had relied on. "They saw a deck," he said, "and now they're nervous about our exposure. I don't even understand half of what they're quoting." "Send me only what's yours," I said. "Invoices, contracts, the timeline, and who said what to whom. I'll make sense of it in plain English." While I waited, I walked the pavement and let my heartbeat settle. The first minutes after a firing leave a hollow in the chest, like stepping off a curb you didn't see. His email arrived with 5 attachments: a term sheet draft, 2 supplier statements, an internal memo, and a slide deck. I opened the memo first. It talked about reassuring market signals and a friendlier forward view. Then I opened the deck. My name sat at the bottom of the cover slide, prepared by my name, Senior Finance Manager. The slides looked like a cousin of a file I had built months ago for a different briefing. The bones were mine, the layout and tidy footers, but the content had been softened, numbers nudged, risks buried in smaller type. Someone had learned my handwriting and used it to sign a postcard I never wrote at all. I searched for clues, dates, and phrasing. A chart used a month I never used because our system labels by fiscal weeks. A footnote mentioned a supplier discount once proposed, then rejected, then revived. Whoever made this had peered over the edge of the real work, but not lived inside it. I called Martin. "This deck," I said. "Where did you get it?" "From a consultant the investor sent," he said. "They said it's widely shared in your sector." "Why?" "Because it misuses my name," I said. "And it makes promises no one should trust," he swore. "Do I pull back?" "We're days from deliveries." "Don't panic," I said. "We focus on what is true and within reach. First, list receivables by age, then match them to payable due dates, then show how the shipments fit your cash cycle. We don't sell a dream. We sell a map." "I can work with a map," he said. "What about the investor?" "We tell them the same truth," I said. "And we ask for questions in writing so there's a record." I opened a clean document and began a timeline. Date, document, claim. For each line, I added source info. If I lacked one, I left the claim out. Old habit. If you can't point at it, don't stand on it. 2 texts arrived. One from Ruth. "Home?" I sent a heart and wrote, "Okay, call later." The other from a number I didn't recognize. "We value your professionalism. You will be fairly treated." No name. Delete. By late afternoon, I had a draft. A 1-page overview, a 6-week cash ladder, and notes for a calm call with his bank. I kept the language simple. He called back to go through it, then cleared his throat. "There's one more thing. I didn't send this earlier because I didn't know if it mattered." "What is it?" "A photo," he said. From a supplier friend. Some fancy hotel thing. He forwarded the image. It showed a screen in a dim conference room. A speaker stood at the front, sleeves rolled, pointing at a slide that looked familiar. The caption read, "Innovation Retreat, Day 2. I pinched the photo wider. The bullet points matched the deck on my laptop, right down to the phrase, "friendlier forward view." In the corner of the slide, I could make out my former employer's logo. My mouth went dry. Checked the calendar invite I had saved. The HR meeting called alignment. I remembered who stood in the corridor when Lucas raised his voice. I remembered him saying, "It's your file." I adjusted tone. Fraud is rarely dramatic. Mostly it is small, lazy, entitled. It borrows your name, softens a number, and expects you to shrug. I did not shrug. I zipped the questionable deck into a separate folder and noted it in my log under misuse of name. Then I made tea. 2 minutes of steam steadies a mind. I thought of my mother when a teacher once accused me of copying. She laid my work on the table and said, "Let the work speak." My phone pinged again. An email blinked from a public address I recognized from company filings. It was from an independent board member. Subject, inquiry. The body was brief. We would appreciate a factual conversation regarding recent investor materials. If you are willing, reply with a time and number. Thank you for your service to the company. They had not accused me. They had asked for facts. I replied, "I am available tomorrow morning. I can speak only to my own work and public materials. I hold no company property. Here is my number." Evening gathered at the windows. My husband came in with groceries. "We're making the good pasta," he said. I wanted to mean it. But on my screen, the false deck still glowed, my name under someone else's promises. In the hotel photo, the speaker had moved closer to the lens, sleeves high. Grin bright, it was Lucas. And behind him, just visible in the blur, sat his mother, still as a statue, watching him sell that friendly fiction to a room that wanted to believe. It when suddenly a new message slid onto my screen and iced the air around me. The message was from Martin's supplier friend, the one who sent the hotel photo. This time it was a private link to a shaky 30-second clip. Recorded during the retreat, the note said. I pressed play. The camera steadied on a slide that matched the friendlier deck on my laptop. Softened losses, buried risks, my name printed at the bottom like a borrowed signature. Lucas paced in front of the screen. "We're telling a friendlier forward view," he said. He tapped the number I refused to change and smiled as it floated higher on the slide. I paused and opened my log. Video shows altered forecast at external event. My name displayed. I typed, adding the date and the timestamp. I took 2 screenshots. One tight on the slide footer with my name, another of Lucas pointing at the false figure. Under provenance, I wrote, "Supplier attendee, do not circulate. Refer to counsel. Order matters." I opened the fake deck's properties. Initial author was me. True, because the layout bones were mine months ago. But last modified by carried different initials, and the last edit date sat after the glassroom meeting. I saved the properties images and added them to my folder. Next, I exported my original forecast, the one I sent before I was fired, with the checksum footnote I always include. I wrote a 1-page differences list in plain English. Growth inflated by reversing a rejected churn assumption. Supplier credit terms shown as executed when only proposed. Risk notes pushed into tiny font at the back. No names. Just what the documents show. The board member's assistant confirmed our call. 9:30 tomorrow, external counsel present. I replied, acknowledged. I will speak only to my own work and public materials. My hands cooled into that calm numbers give when someone tries to dress them. Ruth texted, "They're touchy." I sent her a sun and wrote, "Let the work speak." After dinner, I built a clean timeline, date and time, item type, originator, claim, what the source shows, my relationship, status. I attached only what was mine or public. If I wasn't sure, I wrote, "Refer to counsel." I added the HR alignment invite and my reply with the original forecast attached. I logged the glassroom meeting near the kitchen, the way voices carry. I added Martin's engagement letter with clean walls between his work and anything from my old desk. It mattered that anyone reading could see I wasn't chasing revenge. I was protecting my name and helping a client with the truth. When I lay down, my mind scrolled like a ticker, Footage, metadata, risk tables. I thought of older women pushed out by charm and spin. We tidy our rage into competence. Morning came sharp. I walked the block, then printed my notes. At 9:30, I answered on speaker with a glass of water and a pencil aligned to the page. The counsel's voice was even. We agreed to record. They asked for the forecast timeline, the edits I refused, and the deck bearing my name. I read from my page. I sent the original with checksum and screenshots of the properties. I said, I hold no company property and won't share any. You can retrieve originals from your systems. They asked about the video. I said, a supplier attendee provided it. I have not forwarded it. With permission, I can share their contact. Counsel thanked me and said, please do not engage them further. I wrote, understood. No one gasped. They listened and took notes. They had me read the closing line of the HR email. He has my confidence. The call ended with a polite, thank you for your cooperation. I sat still with my palms on the desk until the quiet settled. It felt like the minute before rain. I made tea and returned to Martin's cash ladder. One supplier agreed to take a partial now and the rest in 10 days. That small shift removed a late fee and softened the bank talk. I sent the revised ladder and a short note. Use this. Don't bluff. Ask for questions in writing. He replied, you just gave me a week. Saving a week can save a business. At noon, the supplier friend wrote again, different angle. I opened the second clip. The phone sat closer to the front. Lucas spoke mid-promise, and she'll present the numbers next board, he said. Same trusted face, tuned message, trusted face. The camera drifted, catching his mother in profile. The sound was muddy, but clear enough as she leaned toward him. Use her name, she said, cool and flat. It calms them. I paused the frame. My name glowed at the slide's edge like a halo someone had rented without asking. I typed a single line in my log. Statement on video. Use her name. It calms them. I did not send the clip anywhere. Some people think names are props. Mine is my life in letters. I closed the video and tidied my desktop. Evidence sits better when the edges are neat. I wrote a short cover note for counsel listing what I could lawfully provide on request. My original forecast with checksum, the differences list, screenshots of the altered deck's properties, metadata of emails I sent and received, a list of public meetings, contact details for the attendee who filmed the clips, to be shared only with consent. Then I turned back to living work, Martin's bank call, and drafted 3 sentences he could read. Here is our 6-week cash ladder. Here are receivables by age, matched to payables by due date. Here is the delivery schedule that fits those facts. The apartment was quiet when the new email arrived. My screen lit with a subject line that lifted the small hairs on my arms. It came from a law firm I recognized from company filings. Not HR. Notice of representation, the header said, stamped formal blue, settling over the desk like a shadow. The email sat like a stone in my inbox. Notice of representation. No greeting, only a paragraph that said the company's legal team now spoke on behalf of all executives and that any contact must route through them. It did not accuse me of anything. I read it twice, then printed it. I placed it beside my log and wrote a single line. Received counsel notice. Will communicate respectfully, facts only, within rights. I chose quiet. First, I opened a blank email to the independent board members' public address. I referenced their assistant's earlier message, acknowledged receipt, and confirmed I would continue to cooperate through the external counsel they had engaged. I stated 3 boundaries in plain English. I hold no company property. I will not forward non-public material. I will speak only to my own work and publicly available items. I pressed send. Second. I looked after my present, not my past. Martin's draft agreement was on my screen, blinking at the clause called representations. Many small firms sign whatever is placed in front of them because the clock is loud. I called him. Before you sign, I said, add 3 lines. 1. All forecasts used in this discussion are your property and reflect your records. 2. Any third-party slide decks are non-binding and cannot be relied upon unless issued by you in writing. 3. You will not be penalized for declining to present numbers you know to be false. He went quiet. I didn't know you could just write that. You can, I said. You are allowed to tell the truth and protect yourself. We drafted the lines together. He read them back, stumbling only once. When we hung up, I sent a short email summarizing what we changed and why. Summaries matter. When nerves rise later, a clear paragraph is a lifeline. Next, I rang my professional indemnity provider. I told them I had been terminated, and that there might be questions about documents bearing my name. I wasn't asking for action. I wanted a file number and instructions. The woman on the phone was calm and precise. She opened a record, told me what to keep, and reminded me of the difference between help and entanglement. If anyone pushes you to guess, she said, don't. After that call, I closed my eyes and breathed until the pace evened. In crises, you make tea, you print things, you count to 10, you choose the next small right action, and then another. I checked the notice of representation again. It used heavy words like privileged and protected, and ended with a sentence that suggested I refer all third parties back to the company. I drafted a polite reply. Thank you for your note. As previously stated, I will speak only to my own work and public materials, and will coordinate with the external counsel identified by the board. I will not engage in any disclosure of non-public company information. I read it twice, removed any heat, and sent it. Then I tidied my log. I added a section titled Contact Map, and drew the paths. Board member public email to external counsel. Company counsel to me. My indemnity number and the date. Client agreement edits. I stapled a copy of my CV at the back because employment gaps make strangers inventive, and the easiest way to quiet that is to place a clean piece of paper in their hands. Ruth texted, "They're rewriting the story." I typed back, "Stories are loud. Ledgers are patient." At noon, I took a short walk. The air had that clean, chalky brightness our city gets after rain. When I returned, 2 emails waited. The first was from Martin. His bank had accepted the cash ladder as the basis for a short extension. The second was from an address I did not know, CCing the board member's assistant and the firm I had recognized yesterday. Subject, coordination. Please be available for follow-up, it said. We will schedule a brief call to confirm custody of materials and to obtain your differences list. We appreciate that you will not share video or forward any third-party content to us directly. We will handle contact with any attendees. I replied. Acknowledged, and attached the 1-page differences list and the checksum version of my original forecast, along with the screenshots of the altered deck's properties. I included my promise again in bold, because repetition is insurance. I hold no company property. I did not mention the sentence I had heard on the video. I logged that choice. Do not publish, quote, wait for counsel. Then I opened my front room window and let the afternoon air fold around the curtains. This is how women my age survive tempests. We keep the room breathable and the record exact. In the late afternoon, my phone lit with a message from a number that looked like a switchboard. The text said only, "Please stand by for a scheduled call." I placed my pencil on the notebook so it was ready, and told my husband I might be tied up for a half hour. Before the call, I checked my sent items one more time. Line by line, they formed a braid. The board path, the client guardrails, the indemnity file, the respectful reply to company counsel. The braid held. That steadied me. The ringtone finally filled the room, and the display named a firm I had seen on serious cases in the papers, the sort that end in footnotes on corrected filings and careful statements with no adjectives at all. I answered, and a woman with a measured voice said my name, then added, "Thank you for your patience and for your documentation. We have a narrow set of questions to confirm, and one new item we need you to hear." Her tone was neutral, but a careful pause told me the ground had shifted under someone else's feet, not mine, and the item moving toward me was heavier than gossip. "Before we begin," the woman said, "I'd like to confirm that you're comfortable recording." "I am," I said. "We'll keep this brief, truly," she continued. "We are external counsel engaged by the independent directors. Our goal is simple. Understand the life of the forecast, the edits you refused, and the materials that appear with your name." "I will stick to my work and public items," I said. "I hold nothing else." "Good," she said. "First, did you ever author a document titled Friendlier Forward View?" "No," I said. "I don't use that phrase. I don't bury risks. I present them." Second, did you give permission for anyone to use your name on investor-facing slides after your termination? No. Third, did you observe or hear any direction that your name should be used to increase trust with outside parties? I heard it on a recording sent by a supplier attendee, I said. I have not forwarded it to anyone. It sounded like the chief executive advising her son to use my name because it calms investors. Understood, she said. Please do not send anything. Provide the attendees' contact details only with their consent. We will contact them directly. I will ask for consent, I said. She moved gently, like a surgeon. We have copies of your original forecast and the differences list. We will obtain originals from the company systems. 2 clarifiers. 1, your checksum methodology. Can you explain it as if to a lay audience? In every final file, I add a fixed text footnote with a unique string, I said. Any change to the file alters that string. If the string does not match, the file has been changed. Clear, she said. 2, did anyone instruct you to soften tone or improve story for the board? Yes, I said. Both phrases. I declined. Thank you, she said. Now the new item. There appears to be a circulating investor deck that attributes statements to you which contradict your original model. It was distributed at a hotel event. We are aware of 2 short recordings that show your name under slides with incorrect assumptions. We will not ask you to share those videos. We only need 1 action from you. Write a plain, 3-sentence witness note, dated and signed, stating 1, what you delivered, 2, what you declined to do, and 3, what you observed about your name on altered slides. I can do that, I said. Good, she said. 1 more question. Are you currently consulting for any firm that might be affected by these numbers? Yes, I said. I am assisting a distribution client with a cash ladder and a bank discussion. I have not shared any company materials with them. I advise them to disclaim third-party decks. That is appropriate, she said. Please keep a record of that advice. We ended the call with thanks. I placed the phone on my desk and looked at the page I had used during the questions. I wrote the 3-sentence witness note in slow, careful lines. Then I added today's date and signed my name as if I were steadying a cup. When the ink dried, I scanned the page and saved it to a folder named with today's date. I emailed counsel, attached as requested. I will seek consent to share the attendee's contact. I pressed send and felt a release, like a weight shifted 1 inch to the right. Next, I called Martin. Bank update. They want clarity, not optimism, he said. Your latter helped. They'll decide tomorrow. Good, I said. Add a sentence. We do not rely on external decks. We rely on our books. I'll do it, he said. Are you okay? Yes, I said, and surprised myself by meaning it. Keep your deliveries honest. Do not promise ghosts. After the call, my phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. See you at the guild breakfast? The sender added a winking face and a name I recognized from vendor forums. The breakfast is one of those industry mixers where people trade business cards and rumors. I had planned to skip it. Now it sat in my mind like an envelope you cannot ignore. I made tea. I drafted a short neutral message to the supplier who filmed the hotel clips. Would you be comfortable if independent counsel contacts you? If yes, please reply with consent. I will not share your details without it. I added a line that protected them. You are not required to do anything. I pressed send and put my phone face down. Then I tidied my notes and cleaned my living room, because order helps the mind choose. As I folded the throw on the sofa, a memory rose. Years ago, my mother stood in a kitchen, flour on her hands, telling me, love the kind of peace that comes from telling the truth, even when the truth costs. I thought of that as I placed my shoes by the door. My husband returned from a walk. How was the call? Calm, I said. They were careful. They asked for a witness note. I sent it. Good, he said. What now? Now I decide whether to attend the breakfast, I said. They might be there. I might hear something that matters. He poured water and leaned on the counter. You can go, keep to yourself and listen. Or you can stay home and rest. Both are fine. I looked at the clock. If I went, I would need to lay out my things and set an early alarm. If I stayed, nothing would happen that could not happen tomorrow. I held both choices in my mind, weighed the breath in my chest, and felt the old steadiness that has carried me through audits and midnights and careless boys with new titles. Should I go and watch what unfolds in that room? Or should I stay away and keep clear of their noise? The morning arrived colder than it should have been for early spring. I dressed simply. A navy jacket, plain white blouse, shoes that said, "I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to listen." My husband handed me coffee and said nothing. Silence between two people who understand each other can be a whole kind of armor. The guild breakfast was held at a city hotel that loved marble more than warmth. The lobby hummed with polite chatter and the smell of overbrewed coffee. I checked in, pinned the small badge to my lapel, and found a table near the side wall, half shadow, half view. The room filled fast, managers, vendors, consultants, all talking about synergy and momentum like the words themselves could raise revenue. I kept my expression neutral and let conversations wash over me. You learn a lot when you're invisible. Then I heard a voice that made my stomach tighten. Lucas. He was there, laughing too loud, gesturing with both hands, enjoying the kind of attention that costs other people's credibility. Beside him, his mother spoke quietly to an investor I recognized, a cautious man who never smiles unless numbers match his heart rate. I turned slightly, pretending to check my phone. From that angle, I could see them both reflected in the polished metal of the buffet stand. The mother's posture was impeccable. Her son's arrogance filled the air like cologne. Across the room, an old HR manager from my department spotted me. She looked startled, then smiled with the strained politeness people reserve for ghosts who show up at their own funerals. She mouthed, "Coffee?" and walked over. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said lightly. "I didn't expect to be seen," I replied. "I'm consulting now." She leaned in just enough. "Off the record," she whispered. "Something's moving upstairs." "What kind of something?" She glanced toward the pair near the windows. "They're doing damage control. Apparently the board's been asking questions about file origins and version trails. Someone traced metadata." I let the words settle. "Metadata," I said. "That's a strong wind." "It's more than wind," she said. "They're worried about investor misrepresentation. Audit committees involved." Her smile returned for show. "Anyway, enjoy the breakfast," she said louder for the crowd. Then under her breath, "Don't let them see you rattled." She left me with that sentence ringing in my ears. The speeches began. Economic outlooks, industry optimism, polite applause. I half listened, eyes on the buffet's reflection. Lucas looked restless, checking his phone every few minutes. His mother leaned in to whisper once, her fingers tightening on her cup. He nodded, but didn't look calm. At one point, a vendor at my table said, "Your old company's under review, right?" He meant no harm. He was making conversation. I just said, "Reviews happen. Numbers tell their own stories." He nodded, grateful I hadn't turned it into gossip. Then, near the end of the keynote, my phone buzzed on silent. A message from Ruth. "They're asking who modified your forecast. Legal is checking access logs." I typed back quickly under the tablecloth. "Stay quiet. Tell the truth if asked. Nothing more." The applause ended. People rose, networking in little hives of handshakes and practiced laughter. I decided it was time to leave quietly. But as I stood, Lucas turned. Our eyes met across the room for a heartbeat. His smile faltered. He said something to his mother, who stiffened but didn't turn. I walked toward the door, my pulse steady but high. In the hallway outside, a voice caught me, soft, cautious. It was the HR manager again. "I shouldn't tell you this," she said. "But you deserve to know. The board's calling an emergency session next week. They're bringing in external auditors." "External?" I asked. "That's serious," she nodded. "Apparently, they've found discrepancies in the investor materials. Someone used your name to legitimize them. The chair's furious." My mouth went dry. "Thank you," I said. "That means more than you know." "Be careful," she said. "They'll look for a scapegoat before they look for the truth." I smiled faintly. Then they'll have to invent one. I stepped out into the sunlight. The city smelled of wet pavement and roasted coffee beans from a nearby stall. I stood there for a long moment, letting the air wash away the hotel's perfume and false cheer. My phone buzzed again, another text from Ruth. They're freezing access accounts. Someone panicked and deleted files, but IT already pulled backups. I stared at the screen. I didn't feel glee or vengeance. I felt something quieter, like gravity returning to normal after too much spin. I started walking toward the train station, the rhythm of my steps matching my thoughts. Truth has its own patience. It waits while noise burns itself out. Then, just as I reached the corner, another message came in. This one wasn't from Ruth or Martin or counsel. It was from an unfamiliar number with no name attached. It said only, "We need to talk before the board does." The text sat on my screen, 6 words heavy enough to still the noise of the street. We need to talk before the board does. No name, no signature, but the tone, urgent, polished, entitled, felt familiar. I guessed before I confirmed it. I replied, short and neutral. "Who is this?" A moment later, the answer blinked in. "Lucas." I stopped walking and leaned against the cold glass of a shop window. For a second, the city blurred. Cars passed, but all I could see was his smirk in that glass meeting room when he said, "Apologize." Now he wanted to talk. I typed, "There's nothing to discuss." Then, after a beat, added, "Please direct any communication through counsel." He wrote back instantly, "You don't understand. They're blaming me for everything." I didn't reply. Another bubble appeared. "They have the slides. They know you refused. But if you say you drafted them before leaving, they'll let me fix it quietly." So there it was, his last move, rewriting history to survive. I let the phone rest in my hand until the screen dimmed, then blocked the number. Quietly. No announcement. Just a click, like closing a door. When I reached home, my husband looked up from the paper. "You look calm," he said. "I am," I answered. "It's starting to unravel." That evening, the unraveling went public. My phone filled with messages from old colleagues. One said, "Check the news feed." The headline glowed on the screen. "Board postpones investor guidance pending internal review." A neat line below added, "Independent auditors engaged to verify financial disclosures following concerns over presentation materials." I read it twice, slowly. The article didn't name anyone, but I could see the shape of it. The decks, the hotel, the missing context. Beneath the article, comments bloomed. Speculation, sympathy, and a few sharp jokes about friendlier forward views. I put the phone down and exhaled. The story wasn't mine anymore. It was in motion, gathering its own weather. Ruth called that night. "They're in meltdown," she said. The CFO and compliance head both walked out of a meeting. It traced the altered deck edits to Lucas's login. Apparently, he tried to delete the audit logs. "Logs don't disappear," I said softly. "They just wait to be found." "People are scared," she continued. "His mother's saying it was a misunderstanding, that you drafted it under pressure and he only polished it." I almost laughed. "They'll say anything until they see timestamps." Ruth hesitated. "They will soon. The auditors already asked for your original checksum copy." "Good," I said. "They can compare for themselves." After we hung up, I stood by the window and watched the streetlights flicker on. The weight of weeks of tension began to lift, replaced by something gentler. Vindication without victory. I never wanted revenge, only clarity. Truth is its own quiet revenge. 2 days later, Martin called, his voice bright. "The bank extended the line. We're covered for 2 months. They said your transparency impressed them. I'm glad, I said. Keep everything documented. He laughed. You and your logs. You've saved us twice. Logs are just memory with dates, I said. Memory wins if you write it down. That same afternoon, a supplier posted a thread online. Factual, restrained, but firm. They described non-payment delays and conflicting forecasts at the company. No names, no rage, just invoices, dates, and calm sentences. It spread quietly across professional circles. Others chimed in with similar accounts. It wasn't a storm. It was a tide. That evening, my email pinged, a note from the independent counsel. Thank you for your cooperation, it read. We appreciate your factual clarity. Please retain your records. You may be contacted for a formal statement once the audit concludes. 2 sentences, no adjectives, but I could feel the shift beneath them. The ground was giving way under someone else now. Later that night, Ruth texted one more message. They're asking who edited your file. Guess who? I wrote back. He already told me. He asked me to take the blame. She replied, Don't you dare. We're all rooting for you. I smiled at the phone, feeling an odd warmth. Rooting, for truth, for boundaries, for the small act of saying no. Around midnight, as I was shutting down my laptop, an email from an unfamiliar address arrived. Subject: Interview request. Quiet discussion. The sender was a senior editor at an industry journal, known for meticulous reporting, not gossip. The message was respectful. We're preparing a feature on integrity in corporate finance. We'd value your perspective, off record if you prefer. I stared at it, the cursor blinking beside the words integrity in corporate finance. I didn't reply. Not yet. I'd learned that sometimes silence is the best press release. I turned off the lamp. The room glowed faintly from the streetlights outside. For the first time in weeks, my breathing was steady. Sleep came without the looping reel of memory. In the morning, sunlight edged through the curtains, and I made coffee slowly, watching steam curl upward. My phone was quiet, except for one message from counsel. We'll update you soon. Things are progressing rapidly. I didn't know what progressing meant yet, but the day felt lighter. Truth moves like water, slow, persistent, and impossible to stop once it finds a crack. Then, just as I reached for my mug, another notification slid across the screen. An invitation from a recruitment firm. Subject line bold and clean. Potential role discussion. Senior Finance Integrity Lead. I blinked at it, half smiling. The universe has a sense of timing, but before I could even open it, another message came in. From a blocked number. You think this is over? It's not. The words glared up at me. You think this is over? It's not. I read them 3 times, not in fear, but disbelief. Some people mistake consequences for unfairness. Lucas, I thought, was one of them. I placed my phone face down and took a slow breath. For a long time, I didn't move. The kettle hissed softly in the background. My husband, reading the paper across the table, looked up. Another message? He asked. Just noise, I said. Karma's busy doing its work. He folded the paper and smiled. Then let it do the heavy lifting. I left the phone untouched until noon. When I finally checked, the number had already been disconnected, likely one of those disposable messaging apps. I logged the text, screenshot it, and stored it under the heading, Contact Attempts Unsolicited. Order is my way of staying calm. You can't control storms, but you can catalog the rain. That afternoon, the universe showed me balance in quiet, almost tender ways. Martin called first, voice full of restrained relief. We did it, he said. Bank approved the revised schedule. The auditor who sat in on our meeting said he appreciated how honest the projections were. You were right. Truth sells. Always, I said. Maybe slower, but it lasts longer. He laughed. You're coming to the office next week. We're signing the new contract in person. Consultant title, flexible hours, good pay. Bring your husband. We'll toast with proper coffee. After we hung up, I sat for a moment, letting gratitude fill the spaces where anxiety used to live. Small wins, I've learned, are how justice introduces itself before arriving fully. That evening, the industry journal editor followed up gently on the interview request. Off record or not, your insight could help others, I replied. Thank you. Let's talk after the audit concludes. Right now, I prefer silence. Truth doesn't need a trumpet. It just needs time. 2 days later, an email arrived from the external counsel. Subject, appreciation. The message read, we're finalizing interviews. Your clarity assisted us immensely. Please retain your records for 60 days. There may be role openings soon aligned with your values. I smiled at that phrasing. Aligned with your values. That's how life rewards people who refuse to bend numbers. Later that night, Ruth called, her voice hushed. It's happening, she whispered. Board held an emergency session today. External auditors presented everything. Timestamps, access logs, file histories. They confronted Lucas and his mother. I said nothing, just listened. She tried to claim the file edits were collaborative drafts. Auditors played the video, the one with your name on the slides. I imagined the air leaving the room, the way silence spreads when lies meet evidence. They said? I asked quietly. She resigned. Lucas was removed from all investor communications. Internal memo went out tonight. They're calling it a transition. I let the words sink in. No celebration, no bitterness, just gravity correcting itself. Ruth exhaled. I wish you could have seen it. I didn't need to, I said. I was there when truth began. After the call, I stepped onto the balcony. The city hummed below, not loudly, just alive. I thought about how many people carry stories like mine. The quiet ones who choose honesty over flattery, who lose jobs, sleep, or friends for it. We don't make headlines, but sometimes if we hold the line, the world catches up. The next morning, I received another email, formal letterhead. The company's new interim chair. Dear name, the board wishes to acknowledge your professionalism and integrity. Your contributions helped restore transparency during a difficult period. On behalf of the company, thank you. Respectfully, interim chair, that was all. No offer, no drama, just gratitude in black and white. I printed it and tucked it into my folder, not as proof for others, but as closure for myself. Later, Martin sent a message with a photo. His staff holding mugs, grinning beside boxes labeled on time, honest numbers inside. His caption read, "We made a slogan, inspired by you." I laughed out loud for the first time in weeks. It felt like air returning to lungs that had forgotten how to work. That evening, while I watered the small plants by the window, my phone buzzed again. A new number, but the tone was different this time. Thank you for keeping quiet when others screamed. You did it the right way. I didn't recognize the sender. Maybe a board member, maybe someone from HR, maybe no one at all. It didn't matter. I replied with 2 words. Truth stands. Then I deleted the conversation and went back to watering the plants. The soil smelled rich, clean, forgiving. Days turned into a week. Life began to find its shape again. Consulting work, coffee with old friends, walks with my husband. The ache of injustice faded into a steadier rhythm of peace, but peace, I've learned, often carries one last echo before it settles. On a Friday evening, I checked my email and froze. There it was, subject line polite but chilling. Request for statement, regulatory inquiry. A line below read, "We believe your cooperation may assist a public review related to your former employer's filings." I sat back, pulse steady but strong. Karma, it seemed, wasn't finished writing. The letterhead on that email gleamed like frost, formal, heavy, official. A regulatory inquiry. I read every word twice, tracing each sentence with my eyes to be sure I wasn't imagining it. They weren't accusing me. They wanted confirmation. Was the deck presented publicly? Did I create or approve it? Could I verify the file timeline? It wasn't fear I felt. It was that sharp kind of calm that comes when the truth is about to stand up on its own 2 feet. I brewed tea, sat down at my desk, and typed a short factual reply. I will cooperate fully within the limits of confidentiality. I created one authentic forecast, sent before termination. I declined to alter assumptions. I hold no proprietary company property, but can confirm public facts and personal notes. I attached nothing, just offered clarity. Before I pressed send, I whispered to myself, "Let your honesty speak first." Then I clicked. That evening, the sunset poured orange light across my desk. For the first time, I didn't feel hunted. I felt still. Justice was no longer a thing I had to chase. It was walking toward me on its own feet. 3 days later, a message arrived from an unfamiliar address. Professional Opportunities Inquiry. Confidential. The sender was a senior partner at a consultancy I'd admired for years. They'd read the same news everyone else had. Their email was warm but professional. "We're rebuilding our ethics and integrity division. Would you consider a conversation?" My husband grinned when I showed him. "Looks like Karma's offering a new desk," he said. I smiled. "Let's see if the chair fits." The interview was virtual. Short, calm, no small talk. The woman leading it asked, "What made you refuse to adjust those figures when your superiors insisted?" I paused before answering. "Because integrity isn't a luxury you display. It's a muscle you use. If I bend it once, it stops holding me upright." She smiled faintly. That's the answer I hoped for. They called back 2 days later with an offer. Senior Finance Integrity Lead. The title made me laugh. Life's poetry can be subtle and direct at once. I accepted. When I walked into my new office a week later, the air smelled of fresh paint and cautious optimism. My desk was near a window with a view of the river. No glass walls, no forced smiles, just sunlight and people who asked real questions. During orientation, the director said, "We build policies on lessons learned from others' mistakes. The way you handled yours, that's the blueprint." I nodded, quietly grateful. The first week blurred in a rush of meetings, new systems, and introductions. Yet every now and then, when I walked past the window and saw the reflection of my face, I thought of the woman who walked out of that glass room weeks ago with nothing but a box and her name. She had no idea the world would eventually thank her for it. Then, one morning, as I was reviewing a policy draft, a message pinged into my inbox. "Final update regarding your previous employer." I froze for half a breath. It came from the same external counsel who'd handled the audit. The email read, "Dear Name, the board has concluded its internal review and regulatory cooperation. The CEO has formally stepped down. The son, Mr. Lucas, has been removed from all operational and investor duties effective immediately. The company has issued corrected financial statements and a public note of apology, acknowledging errors in judgment and oversight. Your professionalism and factual assistance contributed significantly to the resolution. We thank you for your integrity and patience throughout. Respectfully, External Counsel, Independent Committee." I let the words sink in. No fireworks, no headlines about revenge, just truth, printed quietly in black and white. I closed the email and sat very still. My heart didn't race, it rested. I thought of Ruth, of Martin, of the HR manager who whispered, "Something's moving." They were right. Something had moved, all right. The truth had shifted from fragile to solid. I forwarded the note to Ruth with just 2 words. "It's over." She replied almost instantly, finally, "Proud of you." That night, my husband cooked dinner and poured 2 glasses of wine. We ate slowly, without rush. When he raised his glass, he said, "To endings that make sense." I smiled. "And to beginnings that don't need permission." Later, as I washed the dishes, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. The same face, but steadier. I realized the whole story had never really been about getting even. It was about getting free. I went to bed early, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't wake in the middle of the night rehearsing explanations. My conscience slept, and so did I. The next morning, I walked to work beneath a clear sky. A soft wind pushed at my back, as if the world itself wanted me to keep moving forward. The past was no longer a weight, it was a reference point. When I reached my desk, a message from HR awaited me. Welcome officially to the family. We're lucky to have you. I smiled and typed back. I'm lucky to have a second chance done right. And just as I was about to close my inbox, another message appeared from Ruth. Heard the news? Press release going public today. Check the business feed. I opened my browser, half curious, half ready, and what I saw made me set down my coffee and just breathe. The headline glowed across my laptop screen like sunrise through glass. Company issues official correction and commends former employee for integrity. Underneath, the subtext read, a senior finance manager's adherence to factual reporting prevented a wider investor crisis, followed by a line I never expected to see. Independent review confirms falsified materials were distributed without authorization. I stared at it for a long moment. The world outside my window kept moving. Buses rumbling, people walking, pigeons arguing on a railing. All of it ordinary and alive. Inside, my pulse finally slowed into something steady. They'd told the truth. Publicly. My phone buzzed. Ruth again. You're all over the news feed. The comments are unreal. Then another from Martin. Told you karma's punctual. We're toasting you with honest numbers today. I laughed. A quiet, breathy laugh that came from somewhere deeper than humor. When I finally opened the article's comment section, I didn't expect what I found. Hundreds of strangers writing about their own moments of saying no. Nurses, teachers, factory supervisors, accountants, even one retired pilot. Every story different, but threaded with the same quiet pride, the cost of integrity, and the peace that comes after. I read them all until my eyes burned. It's a strange thing, to be seen not for noise, but for the absence of it. I didn't shout. I didn't fight dirty. I just stood still until the lie fell over itself. Maybe that's why people shared it. That night, my husband poured wine again and said, "How does it feel?" Like balance, I said. Like gravity remembered me. He smiled. You know, not everyone would have handled it this way. I didn't have a choice, I said softly. When you start bending truth, you forget how straight it feels to stand up. After dinner, we sat on the balcony. The air was mild, stars dim through city haze. Down below, streetlights shimmered off the river, and I thought about all the versions of me I'd been through this story. The employee, the target, the witness, the survivor. Each one had carried me a little further toward peace. A soft ping broke the quiet. An email notification. I opened it lazily, half expecting another message from Ruth. But it was from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line said simply, "Thank you." The body read, "I was one of the investors at that hotel presentation. I remember your name on the slide. We trusted it because you had a reputation for honesty. When the truth came out, I realized that reputation was real. Thank you for protecting people you didn't even know." I read it twice, my throat tightening. It wasn't praise I felt. It was something gentler, like forgiveness for ever doubting myself. I typed back, "Thank you for believing the truth when it finally arrived." The next morning, I woke early, sunlight already spilling across the room. I made tea, opened the balcony door, and let the air in. No alarms, no dread, no unfinished sentences in my head. Just quiet. At my new office, a small envelope waited on my desk. No sender name, just a folded card. Inside, a handwritten note. For standing when others bowed. From someone who watched, learned, and won't forget. There was no signature, but I didn't need one. Some gratitude is meant to stay anonymous. I pinned the card on my corkboard, just above a quote my mother once told me. Dignity is silent truth, made visible. As the day moved on, meetings came and went, spreadsheets opened and closed, laughter hummed through corridors. I felt the kind of still joy that doesn't need to announce itself. Later that week, I finally agreed to the interview with the industry journal. The reporter asked, "If you could tell people one thing about what happened, what would it be?" I thought for a moment, then said, "That integrity isn't a rule, it's a mirror. It shows you who you are when no one's watching. And if you keep it clean, life eventually reflects it back to you. The article went live 2 days later. The headline wasn't about betrayal or revenge. It was about courage, composure, and the quiet victory of doing what's right. People shared it, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt true. By the end of the week, messages flooded in, stories from viewers who said they'd stood up to bosses, refused shortcuts, protected their names. Some said they'd lost jobs, others said they'd found peace. Many ended the same way. Watching your story reminded me that truth wins slow, but it wins. And that's why I tell this now. Not as revenge, not as a warning, but as proof that integrity doesn't end careers. It clears the way for better ones. So if you've ever stood in that moment, when you're told to please someone powerful instead of doing what's right, remember this. Walk away if you must. Walk with your head high. The world has a way of circling back to people who stood firm. Because sometimes, karma doesn't arrive with thunder. Sometimes it arrives with an email, a quiet thank you, and a peace that no paycheck ever bought. If this story made you feel something, if it reminded you of your own moment of saying no when it mattered, share it. Comment below. Tell your story. Someone out there might need to hear it tonight. And as for mine, it's done. The truth is out, the peace is real, and the circle has closed exactly as it should.